I was at a family friend's house last week, helping her 85-year-old father sort through his mail. It was a slow, careful process. We had to gently point out that the urgent prize notification was a scam, and we spent about 10 minutes trying to find the TV remote that he was certain he'd just put down. He's a wonderful man, full of stories, but everyone in the family quietly agrees that he shouldn't be managing his own finances anymore or making major life decisions without a second opinion. It's a simple act of love and common sense, a recognition of the natural frailties that come with advanced age. Later that evening, I turned on the news, and there, on the screen, were the leaders of several world powers discussing the brink of a new conflict. Many of them were the same age as my friend's father, some even older, and a deeply unsettling thought crept in. We thoughtfully and lovingly create support systems to prevent our elderly relatives from making a bad financial decision, yet we hand over the nuclear codes and the fate of global stability to men in the exact same age bracket, assuming their judgment is somehow immune to the same biological realities. This paradox, this strange societal blind spot where we apply one set of rules in our homes and a completely different one to the highest offices on the planet, is more than just a curiosity. It might be the single most critical and most ignored factor shaping our increasingly chaotic world. Okay, let's unpack this. That opening thought, it might feel a little heavy, maybe, but it really zeroes in on a fundamental question. How do societies make sure their leaders are making the best decisions? And how do they hold power accountable in what feels like an increasingly complex world? Today, we're taking a deep dive into how different nations are tackling these massive challenges. We'll explore some really innovative approaches, things like harnessing collective intelligence through digital platforms, and we'll also try to understand the evolving dynamics of political participation, especially when we look at younger generations. We'll also touch on some fundamental safeguards, like the right to an independent medical examination, which underpins accountability in a very different context. Ultimately, we're trying to understand how governments are adapting, trying to be more responsive and trustworthy in this era of rapid change and, shifting demographics.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is how these topics, which seem quite disparate on the surface, tech-driven governance on one hand, the details of human rights on the other, they all really converge on that central theme, building a responsive and accountable society. We're going to explore some real-world examples today that show how engagement, innovation, and these critical safeguards are actually shaping public administration and that relationship between citizens and their governments across really diverse landscapes. It's all about building systems that are, I suppose, robust enough to withstand the complexities we face no matter who's in charge. So let's start with an idea that's really gained traction lately, crowdsourcing. When you hear that word, maybe you think about, funding a new gadget or some creative project. But governments are actually using it now in some incredibly ingenious ways that can really transform public service. Yeah, and if we zoom out a bit, crowdsourcing in the public sector, it's fundamentally about governments intentionally engaging citizens, often online, yes. But the key is that collective contribution to problem solving, to service delivery, innovation, even shaping policy itself. It's a very deliberate shift away from those traditional top-down sort of hierarchical approaches. The aim is to actively tap into the immense and often untapped wisdom of the crowd, right? Leveraging that collective intelligence for the public good. Hashtag Save Ellie. What is crowdsourcing in the public sector?
Okay, so it's not just like putting out a suggestion box online. It sounds much more structured, more like active engagement.
Precisely. It's a participatory approach, mainly online, yes, where individuals collectively contribute their ideas, maybe their skills, sometimes even their labor. And governments globally are really starting to recognize its huge potential. You see it across the whole spectrum of public administration, right from the early stages of policymaking, public deliberation, through to fostering open innovation or just improving existing services. Think of it as enabling a more direct, sort of dynamic interaction between government agencies and the citizens they serve, like in urban planning, for example. Instead of just relying on expert committees, you're directly gathering preferences and that crucial local knowledge from the people who actually live there. And this kind of active engagement, it can lead to genuinely innovative policies. It can significantly improve public service delivery, often at lower costs too, and it can dramatically boost overall citizen engagement. It helps build a stronger sense of ownership and, trust.
Okay, now, to really get a feel for this, let's take a bit of a whirlwind tour across Asia. We can look at some fascinating real-world examples drawn from a recent Asian Productivity Organization report. These aren't just theories, right? These are actual experiments in governance happening now.
Exactly. This really brings those abstract concepts down to earth, doesn't it? Each case we'll look at highlights a different angle, offering unique lessons about both the immense promise, but also, the potential pitfalls of trying to embed crowdsourcing right into the fabric of how government works. We'll see how different places are navigating this.
All right, first up, Taipei City in the Republic of China. They've got something called the Dashboard Open Source Hackathon. Honestly, that sounds less like a government thing and more like something you'd find at a cutting-edge tech conference.
And you'd be right. In the best possible way, I think. Since 2023, Taipei's Department of Information Technology, they've been organizing these hackathons with a really clear mission. Actively attract citizen skills and technologies to tackle specific pressing policy issues and just generally encourage more public participation. And the core idea, which is pretty revolutionary for government, is open source, making the technology, its development, its spread, all openly available for public eyes, for adjustment, for collaborative sharing. It's a truly collaborative model.
That's a really bold move for a government department. What specific problems were they trying to solve by opening things up like that?
Well, they've pinpointed a couple of critical issues. First, reducing costs and redundancy. As digitalization took off, different departments built their own separate online platforms.
Well, a real patchwork.
Exactly. A mishmash of websites, apps, whatever. Sure. And it led to user confusion, plus really inefficient use of resources for maintenance, like reinventing the wheel over and over. So the hackathon aimed to consolidate these functions into one unified platform by opening up the source code, make it more visible, more accessible. Second, and this was just as important, they really wanted to spark innovation. You had citizens with great tech skills, brilliant ideas, but often no formal way to share those proposals with the government. So the hackathon was meant to create this vibrant, sort of reciprocal community for people passionate about digital public governance, making sure new services weren't just built, but built based on what the public actually needed and wanted.
Okay, so it wasn't just a free-for-all then. How did they make sure they were getting, high-quality, practical ideas? And how did they keep these citizen teams motivated to actually deliver?
Yeah, they put a lot of thought into the structure of the solutions and incentives. For instance, they offered really attractive cash awards. The top team got something like USD 9,300, right. But they didn't just call it a prize. They framed it as the government purchasing new service components from citizen communities. That subtly creates this kind of contractual feel, implying an obligation to meet high standards, ensure it integrates properly.
Interesting framing.
Right. And the selection process itself was super rigorous. In 2024, they started with, I think, 202 participants in 45 teams, but they screened out half. They had a two-step interview process. First, checking if a team's values aligned with the organizers. And second, crucially, verifying their engineering foundation. Looking at past projects, demanding technical proof, no idea only, pitches allowed. Results were based purely on actual working output.
Wow, so really results-driven.
Totally. They also made sure skills matched up, required team participation, basic proficiency in things like front-end development, data visualization, project management, no age limits, but minors needed guardian consent again, emphasizing that professional aspect. They even spelled out 4 specific tasks: open data, open source code and dev kits, visual design, and community building, gave everyone clear targets.
That level of rigor sounds like it would be really effective. What kind of tangible results came out of these hackathons? Any standouts?
Oh, definitely. The results were pretty impactful, showing the real breadth of innovation they unlocked. The 2024 champion was actually a student team from National Taiwan University. They optimized the Emergency Operations Center feature on the city dashboard, created this really interactive disaster response interface. It helps the public quickly see high-risk areas, avoid danger, and it has an alert system, push notifications for updates, reporting.
That's huge in a disaster situation.
Absolutely. Real-time, actionable info. Then the runner-up, an industry team, they made a big contribution to the city disaster prevention module. They used data on soil liquefaction and building age to identify high-risk zones, really granular data for prevention policies. Third place went to a team from Foxconn Technology. They used open source data to educate people about climate change, get them involved in net zero emission goals. And crucially, the whole project fundamentally shifted things so citizens could provide information back to the government. It turned the dashboard into a two-way street. Locals could upload real-time disaster info, for example, becoming active participants, not just passive data consumers.
And what about the long game? Is this sustainable or just a series of one-off events?
No, it's absolutely designed with sustainability and broader impact baked in. The hackathon's success has already pushed universities to offer relevant courses. Chung-Yuan University, for example, introduced programs specifically to help students participate in future hackathons. You've also got private groups now organizing similar events on their own, with the government just providing technical support. It's fostering this new sort of self-sustaining crowdsourcing ecosystem.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and the future goal is really ambitious. Establish an open source standard, make the Taipei City dashboard a kind of foundational template for data visualization platforms globally. So users anywhere could improve it, give feedback, a truly global collaboration. The aim is for the government to be an initiator, a facilitator, not the sole owner. Attract enthusiastic volunteers, foster this fully project-based, feature-rich open source code base. And what's also quite notable, the commissioner involved, he has a technical background, not political. He stays politically neutral and actually acknowledges the need for backup plans for potential transitions of power just to maintain this momentum at the citizen level, insulated from politics.
Okay, from Taipei, let's jump over to India, a country with, over 1.4 billion people, and their platform, mygov.in, I mean, the scale there is just mind-boggling. How do you even start to crowdsource at that kind of magnitude?
It's an incredible undertaking, no doubt. Truly a pioneering effort in trying to weave crowdsourcing into the very fabric of national governance. It launched back in 2014, mygov.in, and it's India's main platform for citizen engagement. And the reach is just immense. We're talking over 25 million registered users. They've collectively generated something like over 100,000 ideas and 800,000 comments across all sorts of national campaigns. Its success in mobilizing people for these huge national initiatives, it really highlights the potential for scalable, meaningful impact. It proves that, with the right approach, even a billion voices can be heard, or at least many more of them.
What are some of the big campaigns that have really used mygov.in effectively?
Well, several campaigns really stand out for their reach and influence. For instance, the Swachh Bharat mission, that's the Clean India contest, it saw participation from an absolutely astounding 17 million citizens. Yeah. And their input directly influenced policy changes, pushed significant service improvements in sanitation all across the country. Then you had Digital India, focusing on digital literacy, connectivity, trying to bridge that huge digital divide. Even the Startup India initiative, back in 2016, used mygov.in as a key channel. Entrepreneurs chipped in ideas that directly shaped policies, things like tax exemptions, reforms to make doing business easier. It really showcases a clear, data-driven responsiveness from the government to citizen input. So yeah, these aren't just about collecting suggestions. It's about turning that collective wisdom into actual policy shifts, service upgrades.
But with such a massive, diverse population, I imagine the challenges must be monumental, especially around, digital access, ensuring everyone can actually participate.
You're absolutely right. The digital divide is, without question, a major hurdle, and it's one India is actively trying to tackle. While cities show pretty robust participation, maybe around 60% on mygov.in, rural areas lag way behind, less than 30%.
That's a huge gap.
It is. And it's mainly down to lower internet penetration. Only about 35% of rural households have connectivity compared to maybe 65% in urban areas, plus lower digital literacy rates. But India has launched some really ambitious initiatives to bridge this. Bharatnet, for example, has already connected over 200,000 village councils, they call them gram panchayats, to high-speed internet. And there are plans for even wider reach. Similarly, the Prime Minister's Rural Digital Literacy Campaign, or PMGDISHA, has made huge strides, trained something like 60 million rural individuals in basic digital skills, equipping them to participate not just in the digital economy, but on governance platforms like mygov.in too.
Okay, so they're working on access, but once people are engaged, how do you keep them involved long term? Initial excitement is one thing, but maintaining it.
Yeah, sustaining engagement is definitely another big challenge mygov.in has faced. Initial enthusiasm for a new campaign might be high, but participation can drop off if people don't feel their contributions are consistently valued or, recognized, often because there isn't a strong real-time feedback loop. So to tackle this, various solutions have been proposed, some are being implemented. Things like providing regular, transparent updates on what's happening with crowdsourced ideas, how policies are changing, incorporating gamification, leaderboards, badges to foster a sense of achievement, maybe some friendly competition, offering tangible incentives like awards or certifications for valuable contributions, and also improving inclusivity through multilingual interfaces, making sure the platform is mobile-friendly for smartphone users, and even deploying hybrid models, combining online engagement with offline community centers that can act as submission hubs. These are all crucial steps towards getting broad, equitable, and sustained participation across India's diverse landscape.
Okay, next let's shift our focus to Malaysia. There was a project there called TN50, Transformasi Nasional 2050. This one, I gather, didn't quite pan out as intended, offers maybe a different kind of lesson.
That's right, and it provides some really crucial insights into how ambitious crowdsourcing efforts can interact with, well, the often turbulent world of politics. TN50, started in 2017 by the Prime Minister at the time, Najib Razak, was incredibly ambitious. It aimed to crowdsource aspirations, ideas from citizens, especially young people, to shape national policies all the way out to 2050. It was designed with extensive town halls across the country, online surveys, and this high-level circle of the future dialogue, bringing youth reps and experts together.
What was the big vision behind it? Sounds like it was aiming for a pretty deep societal shift.
Oh, the intent was definitely grand, very far-reaching. It was meant to build on Malaysia's previous long-term plan, Vision 2020, but with a specific focus on getting unprecedented youth participation, real grassroots involvement. The big goal was to put Malaysia among the top 20 nations globally in economy, innovation, overall prosperity by 2050. And the design of the roadshow was remarkably thorough. Huge interactive booths, dual-format dialogues, moderated town halls for structured debate, plus traditional speakers for expert insights and strong online platforms for input. They even held sessions for specific ethnic groups to try and ensure genuine inclusivity, given Malaysia's diverse population. The Youth and Sports Minister, Khairi Jamaluddin, apparently attended nearly 135 dialogues, and the PM himself, Najib Razak, participated in 11 major ones. So a real effort to gather grassroots concerns directly.
Okay, so if the design was so comprehensive and the political will seemed to be there at the top, what went wrong? What was the peril that ultimately stopped it?
Well, the unfortunate reality is the initiative was halted right in its formative phase, not really because of design flaws, but because of huge external political instability and looming scandals, most notably the 1MDB scandal.
Ah, right. That was massive.
Exactly. This incredibly complex, widely publicized financial scandal just profoundly shifted the public mood, eroded trust in the government, and ultimately led to a complete historic change in Malaysia's political landscape, ended the ruling party's 60-year run. You have to remember Malaysia's unique history, too. Predominantly top-down rule, partly due to its multiracial, religion-dominated politics, past tensions like the 1969 riots. It made such a large-scale, open crowdsourcing effort inherently complex, vulnerable to political shocks. And the 1MDB scandal, discussed constantly on social media, directly fueled the ruling coalition's downfall. It just vividly shows the immense power of online discourse, public sentiment, to reshape politics, often unpredictably. The crowdsourcing initiative, despite good intentions, just couldn't survive that political tsunami.
That's a really stark reminder, isn't it, that even the best-laid plans can get completely derailed by political realities. What are the key takeaways from that TN50 experience, then?
Well, the TN50 case is a powerful example of the potential of crowdsourcing for national policy, for sure. But it crucially hammers home the absolute importance of the right timing, the prevailing public sentiment, and underlying political stability for success. It strongly suggests that huge nation-building policy crowdsourcing just can't be approached like, say, a municipal problem-solving project. It demands really careful preparation for the surrounding environment, an honest look at the political dynamics, the economic conditions. And a key insight that came out of it is that maybe these grand-scale efforts could benefit from being led by a non-political, more neutral body, something that actively involves both the government and the opposition. That kind of cross-partisan buy-in could potentially bridge ambitious national schemes with genuine grassroots involvement, making the whole thing more resilient, more able to continue even if politics shift. It's a reminder that even great ideas need fertile ground, right?
Okay, so from a project that ran into those strong political headwinds, let's look at Pakistan's Citizen Portal. This one seems like it had a more direct, maybe more impactful effect on government accountability, at least initially.
Indeed. The Pakistan Citizens Portal, or PCP, launched in 2018. It was a smartphone app designed to significantly boost direct communication and hopefully trust between the people and their government. It gave citizens this incredibly accessible, direct channel to file grievances, give comments, suggest improvements on all sorts of government operations. It really marked a critical conceptual shift, moving away from an often opaque, kind of colonial-era bureaucratic system towards something more transparent, responsive, citizen-focused.
How effective was it? Did this direct channel actually manage to improve public trust and accountability?
Well, it saw some remarkable achievements, had a really tangible impact, especially in its early years. The portal significantly boosted public confidence in government bodies. It genuinely empowered citizens with a direct way to influence policy, hold public servants accountable like never before. The unit managing it, the Prime Minister's Performance Delivery Unit, PMDU, reported that by December 2021, something like 4.4 million complaints had been filed. An amazing 4 million were handled successfully. That's like a 90.91% resolution rate.
That's impressive responsiveness.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that level of responsiveness fostered much-needed transparency. People reported noticeable drops in corruption, improved efficiency in various government departments. They also showed some foresight regarding the digital divide. A manual complaint filing system was brought in October 2020 for people without smartphones, internet, or those who were, physically disabled, illiterate, women, widows, senior citizens. A real effort towards inclusivity. And another key reform was the escalated complaints mechanism. Unresolved issues automatically went up the chain, even to the Prime Minister's office. That significantly boosted accountability, pushed for quicker solutions. There were numerous success stories, concrete actions against police misconduct, even rescuing an abductee showing its real-world impact.
It sounds like a real success story then. But given the political context we just discussed with Malaysia, were there pitfalls? Did it face resistance or threats to its long-term survival?
Oh, absolutely. No system, however well-meaning, works in a vacuum, right? And the PCP faced significant challenges that really highlighted its vulnerabilities. The biggest issue cropped up after the 2022 administration change. There were widespread reports of falling efficiency and, crucially, a noticeable lack of interest and commitment from the new government. This led to less public involvement, diminished trust. It strongly suggests the portal's sustainability really depends on sustained, nonpartisan political commitment, viewing it as a permanent civic service, not just a tool of one administration.
Ah, the political dimension again.
Exactly. And bureaucratic resistance was another big hurdle. Initially, government departments, used to be the old ways, were often reluctant. Complaints got mismanaged, delayed, got inadequate answers. Alarmingly, some officials were even caught falsifying data to make their resolution rate look better. Yeah. And despite efforts, the digital divide remained a challenge, especially in rural areas, although awareness campaigns continued. Lastly, certain types of complaints, national security, family matters, overtly political issues, illegal content, were explicitly rejected to keep the portal focused and manage its scope.
So what are the key lessons for keeping a platform like this going effectively long-term, especially when facing political shifts or bureaucratic pushback?
Well, for long-term success, the most critical lesson seems to be that platforms like PCP must be seen as nonpartisan civic services, completely separate from any political agenda. Strong legal frameworks, legislative backup, are crucial to protect their existence and function from arbitrary political changes. Also, independent tech infrastructure and operational oversight are essential to keep the system functional, secure, and, untainted by political influence. Sustained public demand, shown through high usage, is also powerful, creates a natural incentive for any government to support it. And of course, continuous, dedicated funding is non-negotiable. A government that truly values transparency and citizen feedback is more likely to provide those resources and protect the portal's autonomy. Ultimately, its ability to adapt to evolving citizen needs and tech changes is critical for staying relevant and impactful over time.
All right, let's hop over to Thailand now, specifically Bangkok. They have a platform with a very memorable name, Traffy Fondue. What exactly is cooking there? How is it changing urban problem solving?
It's a wonderfully successful public crowdsourcing tool, specifically for urban solutions. And it's been deeply integrated into Bangkok's smart city initiatives since around 2018. It basically facilitates direct communication between citizens and various government agencies about all sorts of city issues. The name definitely sticks, and it has become a real staple for many Thais.
How does it actually work for people, and how widespread is it across Thailand now?
Well, Traffy Fondue was actually conceived way back in 2013 by the National Electronics and Computer Technology Center, but it's just grown exponentially since then. It's now actively used by over 15,400 agencies across all 77 provinces and 753 districts in Thailand. That includes over 1,900 municipalities, 2,100 local admin organizations. Its reach is truly nationwide. And the process for citizens is remarkably simple. You report issues using a user-friendly mobile app. It even integrates with the hugely popular landline app, which allows for anonymous submissions if you want. Users can easily upload photos, location maps, categorize their complaints across 14 different areas, anything from everyday stuff like waste management or broken streetlights to more serious things like traffic congestion or disaster-related problems. And a key feature, really important for building public trust, is that all complaints, plus their current status, are publicly viewable online. That massively enhances transparency and accountability.
That's really extensive coverage and a huge range of issues. What kind of results has TrafiFondue actually delivered since it became so widespread?
The results are genuinely impressive, really speak to the platform's effectiveness. Between June 2022 and July 2024, nearly 950,000 complaints were registered nationwide, and a remarkable 77% of those were successfully resolved. What's even more striking is the average time it takes to solve a problem. An incredibly fast 3.8 days, or about 91 hours. That's a four-fold increase in response speed just since 2022. A clear sign of streamlined processes, increased efficiency.
Wow, 4 times faster.
Yeah. And public satisfaction is high, around 3.95 out of 5. In Bangkok alone, citizens have reported over 765,000 issues, with almost 80% resolved, similar high satisfaction levels. It shows the profound impact at the city level. It's not just a platform, it's a vital feedback loop,
Those are really compelling numbers. What do you think are the key success factors? What makes TrafiFondue such a powerful tool for citizen engagement there?
Several things really stand out as key. First, strong leadership and a clear strategic vision. That's paramount. The Bangkok governor, Sittipunt, his unwavering commitment, his active personal monitoring of the platform, fostering interagency coordination, emphasizing collaboration over blame. That's been absolutely crucial. He holds regular evaluation meetings, creates this culture of shared responsibility. Second, financial autonomy. That gives Bangkok a significant edge. The Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, BMA, has this unique status with diverse revenue streams, property taxes, public service fees, transport fees. It provides substantial financial resources for quick policy implementation, project management. They can act fast on reported issues. Third, a mix of effective technology, proactive PR, and robust networking is critical. The user-friendly mobile access, plus proactive PR campaigns pushing its use, and a well-coordinated network among BMA district offices. It all ensures prompt issue resolution. And finally, public engagement and trust. That's the foundation. Quick, visible responses from authorities directly foster trust. The fact that complaining is free, that processes are transparent, citizens can track projects, budgets significantly enhances accountability, makes the BMA's work more accessible, more responsive to the people it serves.
It sounds like a fantastic model, especially for big cities. Are there specific challenges when you try to implement this kind of thing outside a highly resourced city like Bangkok, say in more rural areas?
Oh, definitely. There are challenges, particularly in rural areas where the context is quite different from a bustling place like Bangkok. Firstly, the scope of use is often more limited. In many rural places, the platform might just be used for basic issue reporting, tracking, rather than the comprehensive urban management we see in Bangkok. Reflects more localized, maybe simpler needs. Secondly, leadership changes from local elections can really threaten sustainability. The platform's continued success often depends on the commitment, the active championing of new administrative teams. If a new leader doesn't prioritize it, momentum can just fizzle out. And lastly, resource constraints are a common problem. Smaller budgets, fewer staff in some local governments can severely limit their ability to fully use all the platform's advanced features or to effectively integrate it with broader central policies. These limitations can really hinder TrafiFondue's potential beyond the big urban centers.
Okay, our final crowdsourcing case takes us to Turkey. They're running something called Technofest. This sounds like it's about more than just fixing city problems or making services smoother. Feels like it has a bigger national ambition.
It absolutely does. Technofest isn't just a competition, it's this huge annual festival, started in 2018. It's meticulously designed to crowdsource innovative solutions for public sector challenges, yes, but while simultaneously fostering this profound national passion for tech, science, entrepreneurship, especially among young people. It's organized on a truly grand scale by the Turkish Technology Team Foundation, T3 Foundation, working closely with the Ministry of Industry and Technology. So it's very much a state-backed effort to cultivate a future tech workforce and that innovative spirit.
What's the scope of this festival, and how much has participation grown since it began?
The scope is immense. It attracts participants not just from Turkey, but also interest from international universities, institutions. And the participation numbers themselves are just staggering. They've exploded from just over 4,300 applications in 2018 to more than 337,000 in 2023.
Wow, that's incredible growth.
Isn't it? That exponential growth just speaks volumes about its national appeal. And Technofest features this vast array of competition categories, covering really cutting-edge fields that tie into national priorities. Things like smart Wi-Fi, blockchain, air defense systems, unmanned surface vehicles, UAVs, quantum hackathons, nuclear energy tech, AI in transportation, even specific climate change research projects designed just for high school students. This incredibly diverse range ensures broad appeal, draws in different skills, and directly drives deep innovation in critical sectors.
That's an amazing list of categories, especially including high schoolers. What kind of real impact has this had on Turkey's tech ecosystem, particularly in areas like, say, defense?
It's had a truly significant, very tangible impact. You can really see it in Turkey's booming defense industry. Companies like Turkish Aerospace Industries, TAI, Baykar Technology, famous for their drones, Roketsan. They report a strikingly young average age for their engineers, typically between 27 and 32. Many of these bright young people are likely Technofest alumni. They participated, honed their skills, maybe even before finishing their degrees. General managers from these top companies openly say they actively recruit talented participants straight from Technofest. They see it as a vital, direct pipeline for future innovation, a source of highly skilled talent.
So it's a direct talent feeder.
Exactly. And furthermore, the festival strongly encourages entrepreneurship. Successful teams get awarded grants, sometimes substantial ones, to start their own companies. For example, one team got a USD 5,550 grant to establish their startup. It shows the festival's direct role in fueling a vibrant tech startup scene, contributing to national economic growth and technological independence.
So beyond just the sheer scale, what are the key ingredients that have made Technofest such a success story in building this national tech ecosystem?
Several fundamental factors really contribute to its remarkable success. First, its broad participation base is crucial. By attracting diverse segments of society, high schoolers, university students, industry pros, it spurs widespread innovation, fosters a truly national movement. Second, there's a very strong thematic alignment with national development goals. The competitions link directly to Turkey's strategic objectives, like achieving technological independence. That resonates deeply, motivates participants. Third, effective public-private sector collaboration is a cornerstone. The partnership between the T3 Foundation, the ministry, alongside major defense and tech companies, seamlessly bridges different sectors. Fourth, substantial prizes and grants act as powerful incentives. They don't just attract attention. They genuinely encourage high-quality work and provide the financial backing needed to turn ideas into reality. And finally, it consistently offers valuable skill-building opportunities, provides accessible platforms for participants to develop knowledge, refine skills, and crucially, see their work as deeply meaningful, directly contributing to national progress. That sense of purpose drives sustained engagement and this self-reinforcing cycle of innovation.
Okay, so looking back at these incredibly diverse examples, Taipei, India, Malaysia, Pakistan, Thailand, Turkey. What are the big overarching lessons for making crowdsourcing work effectively in the public sector? What really separates success from, well, struggle?
Yeah, we can definitely distill several common threads from these varied cases. They offer really valuable insights into both the promise and the pitfalls of crowdsourcing and governance. First and foremost, I'd say, is the undeniable importance of leadership and political support. This is absolutely crucial for success. You need that top-down commitment, seamless integration into national strategies. We saw that clearly in Taipei, Thailand, and Turkey. Conversely, the palpable lack of that commitment, especially like in Malaysia's TN50 or Pakistan's Portal after the transition, can severely undermine even the best-designed initiatives, highlights their vulnerability to political shifts.
So strong political buy-in at the top is essential. But it sounds like the actual design and the incentives within the initiatives themselves also play a huge role.
Absolutely. Which leads right to the second lesson, clarity and incentives. Well-designed events with crystal clear objectives, transparent rules, and genuinely attractive rewards, whether that's cash prizes, partnerships, public recognition, they're highly effective in attracting and motivating high-quality contributions. Taipei's hackathons, Turkey's Technofest, prime examples of how targeted incentives and clear expectations lead to better results, sustained engagement. People need to know exactly what they're contributing to, right? And what value their efforts bring. Third, and this really can't be stressed enough, is the imperative of bridging the digital divide. Online platforms offer amazing scale, yes, but successful implementation absolutely requires active, deliberate strategies to ensure inclusivity. That means reaching rural populations, people with lower digital literacy, those without consistent internet. India, With FARETNet and its literacy programs, Pakistan with its manual submission options, they show how hybrid models and targeted outreach can ensure wider, more equitable participation. Not just empowering those already connected. Host, speaker, speaker.
And once people do contribute ideas or report problems, how do you keep them engaged? What happens after that initial buzz fades? That brings us to the fourth critical point: robust feedback mechanisms and transparency. Citizens need to see unequivocally that their contributions are valued, and more importantly, that they're being acted upon. Providing regular, clear updates on the status of submissions, making the resolution processes transparent, that fosters deep trust, sustains long-term engagement. Pakistan's portal with its tracking system, Thailand's Trafi Fondue with publicly visible complaint statuses, excellent examples of how transparency builds credibility, keeps the public invested. Without that feedback loop, enthusiasm just dries up fast. Fifth, skill building and community engagement. These are vital for fostering a self-sustaining ecosystem of citizen innovation. Just asking for ideas isn't enough. Offering technical support, providing training, actively fostering spontaneous community activities around these platforms that can significantly improve the quality and sophistication of contributions. Taipei's efforts to link hackathons to university courses, Turkey's Technofest nurturing young talent. They exemplify how investing in skill building creates this virtuous cycle of innovation, continuous improvement, ensures a steady stream of skilled contributors.
And finally, it seems like navigating the politics is also a huge lesson, especially thinking about Malaysia, where instability basically shut down a promising initiative.
Precisely. Our sixth and final overarching lesson is the absolute necessity of managing political sensitivity. Crowdsourcing initiatives aren't immune to political dynamics. They're often profoundly impacted by them. Their success can be intrinsically tied to political stability, a nonpartisan approach, particularly for large-scale policy stuff that aims to last beyond short-term political cycles. The Malaysia TN50 case is a powerful, cautionary reminder. Even the best-designed crowdsourcing effort can falter, lose public confidence without the right stable political environment and sustained cross-party commitment. It just underscores the fragility of even the most well-intentioned efforts when politics get rough.
Speaking of those political dynamics and the importance of participation, our opening touched on the unique challenges and questions around age and governance. While our crowdsourcing example showed younger generations driving innovation, let's pivot now. Let's take a broader look at youth participation in democratic processes, maybe drawing on some interesting European experiences. How do we ensure that the voices of those who will inherit tomorrow are actually being heard today?
Yeah, stepping back, the question of who participates in political decision-making is absolutely fundamental to the health, the legitimacy of any democracy. When certain groups get systematically excluded, especially the largest generation in history, it imposes clear limits on truly democratic rule. It fundamentally compromises the government's responsiveness. This really becomes a critical issue for the long-term vitality of any democratic system. It challenges the very idea of representative governance, doesn't it? Hashtag tag to see why youth participation matters for democracy.
It might seem obvious, saying youth participation is critical, but beyond just fairness, why is it so indispensable for the overall health and, well, the future of a democracy?
Oh, it goes far beyond simple fairness or just ticking a representation box. Beyond just preventing arbitrary decisions or ensuring some external control over power, robust political participation serves several vital functions. It helps citizens articulate their interests. Their needs provides crucial input that shapes policies. It fulfills a profound educational function, teaching citizens about their government, fostering a deeper understanding of civic responsibility. It actually impacts individual life satisfaction as people feel more engaged, more influential. And crucially, it provides essential checks and balances on decision makers, holds them accountable. The data is pretty stark too. The percentage of MPs younger than 30, it rarely gets above 2% in many European countries. And this underrepresentation is particularly bad for young women. This consistently low youth participation means that politicians, frankly, have little systemic incentive to prioritize or even focus on policies that specifically benefit younger generations. If we keep excluding such a significant future-oriented demographic from the core political process, well, it essentially reads like a dangerous script for the gradual decline of liberal democracies.
So, is the issue that young people just aren't interested in politics anymore? Or is it more that they're engaging in fundamentally different ways than older generations did?
The data overwhelmingly suggests it's definitely the latter. Yes, there's a general observable trend of declining voter turnout in many established democracies. But technological innovation, particularly the pervasive reach of the internet, social media has profoundly diversified and transformed the whole landscape of political expression and engagement.
Tell us more about that digital shift then. What does online political engagement actually look like for young people?
Well, the internet has consistently shown a positive impact on both offline political engagement and broader civic participation. Social media, especially, has become the preferred, almost natural channel for young people's online political life. It's introduced entirely new forms of interaction that just didn't exist before. Signing online petitions, joining viral campaigns, directly commenting on politicians' posts or policy announcements. Young people are significantly more likely to discover and learn about political issues online. They process a wider variety of news sources compared to traditional media. They're also much more inclined to actively share political information, express their views online. This digital shift is often seen as maybe a partial remedy to traditional political apathy. It provides easily accessible information for those not primarily interested in institutional politics. And it can foster a greater sense of political efficacy, the belief that their participation actually matters. It sort of lowers the barrier to entry.
That certainly sounds promising, like a democratization of engagement. But what about the downsides? Are there inherent challenges with this digital-first approach? Is it really a cure-all?
Well, while there's undeniable hope around social media boosting democratic engagement, it's really crucial to acknowledge the limitations, the challenges. The reality is, young people primarily use social media for entertainment, for personal relationships, and that predominant use can often distract from political action rather than mobilizing it. Studies have actually shown the media consumption, mainly for entertainment, can have negative effects on political participation. The constant stream of diversions can just dilute focus. Moreover, if you look closely at the data, the proportion of young people who actually delve into political articles or consistently express political opinions online remains quite low. In essence, digital participation often tends to amplify the activism of those who are already engaged, already politically active. It doesn't necessarily bring a massive new wave of previously disengaged citizens into the active political fold. It broadens the forms of participation, perhaps, but not always the depth or breadth of consistent engagement across the whole youth demographic.
So what does all this mean for how we even understand political participation? It sounds like the traditional yardsticks might be missing a big part of the story, maybe unfairly labeling a whole generation as apathetic.
You've hit on a critical point there. It absolutely is a moving target. And that narrow traditional view, focusing only on elections, formal campaigning, it just doesn't capture the full evolving picture anymore. The definition of political participation has significantly expanded. It now includes a much broader range of activities beyond just casting a ballot. Things like direct citizen-initiated contacts with politicians, participating through interest groups, signing petitions, online or off, joining demonstrations, consumer boycotts, even volunteering for causes they believe in. This broader understanding fundamentally challenges that pervasive myth of youth apathy. Instead, it suggests they're often engaging in diverse forms of what's sometimes called everyday politics, or micro-political action, consumer citizenship, identity politics. Their very sense of citizenship is deeply shaped by their lived experiences, their daily interactions with institutions, with people. And yet so often, their distinct voice gets overlooked or pushed back until they hit voting age, by which point maybe they already feel like their voice counts less, having been excluded earlier on.
And what about that old life cycle theory? The idea that people just naturally get more politically interested as they age. How does that stack up against what we're seeing now?
Yeah, the classic life cycle theory did suggest participation naturally increases from youth to middle age, then slowly drops off. The argument was that young people are busy with other things, career, family, and only gain political experience and interest later. But that age-based explanation is increasingly challenged. It feels too generalist, relies on this idea of a linear, predictable path to adulthood. Young people today often face prolonged, less certain transitions into adulthood, economic insecurity, precarious jobs, delayed milestones like buying a home or stable relationships. This extended insecurity can deeply impact their political engagement, maybe make them less likely to commit to traditional long-term political activities. The discussion has also shifted to distinguishing between, say, the dutiful citizen model, where engagement is seen as a civic duty, often tied to traditional institutions, versus the actualizing citizen. Younger generations are often seen as fitting more into that actualizing model, more individualistic, cause-oriented, engaging with single-issue groups, drawn to new communication forms that don't need long-term institutional commitment. It's not necessarily apathy. It's a fundamentally different way of engaging, often more flexible,
more issue-specific.
Okay, given all these complexities, the digital shift, the changing definition of participation, those shifting paths to adulthood, what concrete steps can actually be taken? How can we genuinely boost youth political participation and make sure their voices are heard effectively, consistently within government structures?
That's the critical question, isn't it? How do we foster meaningful engagement when young people come to politics with such varying levels of information, trust, political efficacy? Several strategic approaches are often proposed to try and bridge this gap, cultivate a more engaged youth population. First, enhancing civic education. This is absolutely crucial and needs to go way beyond just textbooks. Schools should actively promote a participatory culture, provide consistent active learning opportunities through real-world stuff, like visiting local government, inviting community reps to speak, or having strong, empowered student councils that actually influence school decisions. Fostering an open classroom climate that encourages lively debate on controversial issues rather than shying away also demonstrably leads to more positive political attitudes, a greater sense of civic agency. Plus, redefining citizenship education to explicitly include media literacy, critical evaluation of online content, ethical online behavior that's vital in our digital age. And finally, ensuring stable funding for teacher training is essential to support a truly democratic school culture. While protecting civic ed from ideological fights and partisan misuse is key for its coherence and long-term effectiveness. Second, reducing barriers to voting. This can significantly lift turnout, especially among mobile groups. Implementing alternative voting methods just makes it easier. Postal voting, advanced physical voting, proxy voting, and critically, exploring secure e-voting and internet voting. While maybe not a cure-all for engagement issues, these methods demonstrably lower the cost of voting, make it more accessible for occasional voters, busy young professionals, those with mobility issues. Automatic voter registration removes a big administrative hurdle, which disproportionately hits mobile groups like students moving addresses. And while it's stricter and often debated, compulsory voting has been shown to demonstrably increase turnout by effectively raising the perceived cost of not voting. Ensures a broader base participates.
Okay, so beyond the act of voting itself, how can we engage young people through policy and media, leveraging their preferred channels, focusing on issues that actually resonate with them?
Right, that's the third strategic approach. Engaging through policy and media. Promoting impartial media coverage is absolutely key. Ensuring balanced airtime for political actors. Limiting overly aggressive paid political ads. Facilitating substantive televised debates. This helps voters, especially digitally savvy young ones, make informed choices based on real policy differences, not just sound bites. Supporting community media initiatives allows young people to actively produce their own media content. That builds social capital, creates organic links between them and policymakers, fosters a sense of ownership over their stories. Furthermore, focusing strategically on single-issue campaigns that are directly relevant, deeply resonant to youth, things like affordable education, climate action, human rights, can powerfully mobilize those who might feel alienated from traditional, broader politics. It taps right into that cause-oriented engagement tendency. Fourth, promoting deliberative models. This means creating safe, structured spaces where youth voices can be genuinely heard and considered. Think about initiatives like youth juries or mock trials, where young people discuss complex issues with peers, adults acting as neutral facilitators. These can lead to well-reasoned judgments, direct communication with policymakers, potentially influencing actual policy outcomes. Another crucial aspect is promoting representative administration, actively increasing the demographic representation of young people within bureaucracies, not just in elected office. That can lead to more responsive policies that directly benefit their age group, fostering greater political efficacy, showing their perspectives are valued at all levels of governance. And finally, the fifth strategy focuses on supporting political actors' infrastructure. Limiting large, often opaque donations to parties and candidates can help level the playing field. Makes it more feasible for younger candidates who often lack big financial networks to run for office, narrowing the gap with established players. Creating cross-party settings for sharing information, open discussion, constructive feedback that cuts across rigid party lines is also crucial. Allows for more collaborative approaches to youth issues. And critically, providing stable, long-term support for youth organizations, civic spaces, and comprehensive training programs specifically for young politicians. Ensures they have the infrastructure, the mentorship, the skills needed to enter, navigate, and participate effectively in the political system, rather than feeling shut out or unsupported.
Okay, now let's shift gears pretty significantly. We're going to talk about a foundational aspect of accountability, but in a very different arena: the right to an independent medical examination. This isn't about political leaders making grand decisions. It's about a deeply personal yet absolutely crucial safeguard for human rights. Ensuring accountability within the justice system, it really speaks to the integrity of systems that affect every single one of us.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is how this specific safeguard, which often gets overlooked in broader chats about governance and high-level stuff, is absolutely critical for protecting individuals, particularly those deprived of their liberty. It speaks directly to the integrity of our institutions and underscores the paramount importance of external oversight to prevent abuse of power, no matter how subtle or overt it might be. It's a quiet but incredibly powerful protection against the very real potential for systemic harm. Hashtag A. The critical role of medical examinations in detention.
So what exactly is this right to an independent medical examination for people in detention, and why is it considered so profoundly important as a safeguard?
Well, at its core, it's a fundamental safeguard against torture and ill treatment, a critical line of defense for vulnerable individuals. International standards are very clear on this. A proper medical examination must be offered to any detained or imprisoned person as promptly as possible after they're admitted to a place of detention. And beyond that initial check, continuous medical care must also be provided, free of charge, whenever it's needed. The impact of this right is hugely significant. Study after study has shown that the right to an independent medical exam upon request is one of the single most effective safeguards in preventing torture and ill treatment. It stands right alongside other vital rights, like the right to notify someone you've been detained, the right to access a lawyer, and the right to be fully informed about your rights when arrested. Without it, individuals are just left exposed and vulnerable.
Okay, so if it's that critical, when exactly should this examination happen? And who is ideally responsible for doing it to ensure its integrity?
International standards are actually quite explicit and detailed here. The exam should happen as soon as possible after arrest and immediately upon admission to any place of detention. Some more progressive places, like Mexico, even specify a time frame, no later than 12 hours after arrest. And critically, both before and after a statement is made to the public prosecutor's office. That dual timing is designed to catch any injuries that might happen during interrogation.
That makes sense.
Right. As for who performs it, ideally it should be a forensic physician, someone specifically trained in medical legal stuff, or a doctor explicitly chosen by the detained person. That's specifically to ensure impartiality, independence from the detaining authorities. But in practice, what often happens is that police healthcare staff do these exams. And all too often, these exams are superficial, brief, and mainly just serve as a formality to confirm the initial physical state, rather than a thorough, truly independent assessment looking for signs of ill treatment.
And how should the examination itself be done to maintain confidentiality, to make sure the person feels safe enough to disclose any concerns?
The how is just as crucial as the when and who. The examination must, without exception, be done in strict privacy. That means absolutely no non-medical staff, and especially no police officers, should be present. This privacy is non-negotiable. It's essential for ensuring confidentiality, for building trust with the detained person. It lets them feel safe enough to disclose injuries or concerns without fearing immediate reprisal. Informed consent is also a crucial prerequisite. The person must understand and agree to the exam, although there are exceptions for people who are incapacitated, unable to consent, then a legal representative might step in. This meticulous approach is what separates a genuine safeguard from just, a bureaucratic box-ticking exercise, hashtag C. The scope of examination and confidentiality.
What exactly does a truly proper medical examination cover then? Is it just a quick checkup or does it go deeper? And once it's done, who gets to see the results?
That raises an important point. How comprehensive does this exam really need to be to serve its critical purpose, identifying ill treatment? Well, it needs to be incredibly thorough. A proper exam includes a detailed reference to all injuries observed, no matter how minor they seem. Ideally, with color photos where applicable, for clear evidence. It also requires a full account of the person's physical and mental health, including any pre-existing conditions. And for possible cases of torture, international guidelines like the Istanbul Protocol are explicitly meant to be used. The Istanbul Protocol is basically a global manual developed by medical and legal experts for effectively investigating and documenting torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. It ensures a standardized, thorough medical and psychological assessment, absolutely crucial for accountability, for building strong legal cases. And crucially, the results of this examination are strictly confidential. They should ideally not be brought to the attention of the police or detaining authorities. They should only be available to the detained person themselves and their lawyer.
This absolute confidentiality is vital. It ensures that fear of reprisal doesn't stop individuals from reporting ill treatment or injuries they might have sustained. Makes it a truly independent and protective measure. ###D. Persistent challenges in practice.
It sounds like a robust system on paper, doesn't it, with very clear international guidelines. But despite these standards, we know abuses still happen. What are the persistent real-world challenges in actually implementing this right effectively? Why is it so hard to ensure that medical independence in practice?
Yet, despite the clear and comprehensive standards, there are indeed significant hurdles. Persistent challenges in practice that sadly allow abuses to continue. First, there's just a pervasive lack of awareness. Detained persons, their families, often simply don't know about their fundamental right to request a medical exam upon arrest or detention. If you don't know the right exists, you can't exercise it right. Leaves this vital safeguard unused. Second, and tragically common, is the fear of reprisals. Individuals may genuinely fear negative consequences, more ill treatment, delays in their case, harm to family, if they ask for an exam or report ill treatment. And this fear is amplified if they see the medical staff as not being independent from the authorities, which leads directly to the third and maybe most critical challenge, the lack of independence of medical staff. In many places, the medical personnel doing these exams may not be adequately independent from the police or state authorities. They might work for the same ministry. Their careers could be influenced by officials. Even more concerning, they might not be adequately qualified or specifically trained to identify the often subtle, insidious signs of torture or ill treatment, which can be easily missed or misinterpreted. In some truly alarming cases, forensic medicine institutes, the very bodies meant to provide independent assessments, are even structurally subordinate to police administrative authority, fundamentally compromising their impartiality.
Wow, that's deeply worrying.
It is. Fourth, there's often insufficient resources and training. This shows up in multiple ways. Just a lack of qualified staff, inadequate resources like necessary equipment for proper exams, good lighting, cameras, specialized tools, and not enough training for medical personnel on the right procedures, including the specific protocols for recognizing and meticulously documenting torture signs, like those in the Istanbul Protocol. Fifth, inadequate documentation. This just further undermines the system. Poor record keeping, no standardized forms for consistent data, or just failing to properly document injuries in the context. It severely weakens the exam's evidentiary value, makes it incredibly hard to prove ill treatment later in court. Without meticulous documentation, an exam loses its power as an accountability tool. And finally, there are specific compounding challenges for vulnerable populations. Women often need female examiners, gender-sensitive healthcare not always available. Foreigners face huge language barriers, need impartial interpreters for accurate communication. Persons with disabilities require reasonable accommodation for exams, careful attention to informed consent. And LGBTI persons have specific healthcare needs, might face discrimination, requiring trained staff who respect self-identification and ensure a safe environment. These practical systemic challenges really highlight that even strong legal frameworks need continuous vigilance, robust independent implementation, and unwavering oversight to actually be effective in protecting individual rights.
So what does this all mean, really? For us, for the systems we rely on? We started by questioning how judgment, decision-making at the highest levels of power are handled as people age, how we might have this societal blind spot when it comes to accountability right at the top. And while our deep dive took us into the fascinating mechanics of crowdsourcing and these essential foundational human rights safeguards like independent medical exams, the underlying thread seems to be consistently about building better, more responsive, and ultimately more accountable systems. Regardless of who happens to be at the helm, it's about designing structures that can withstand human frailties, political pressures, fostering trustworthiness from the top down and the bottom up.
Indeed. If we consider the broader picture, whether it's through those innovative digital engagement platforms we talked about, leveraging collective intelligence, or by ensuring that fundamental human right to an independent medical exam for those deprived of liberty, or by fostering greater, more diverse participation from young people. The push for transparency, for accountability, for genuine citizen involvement is clearly reshaping governance worldwide. It's about continuously adapting our democratic processes, our institutional safeguards, making them more resilient, truly responsive, to meet the complex, evolving challenges of the modern world. It's really about building a future where trust isn't just assumed, but actively earned. Earned through verifiable and consistent practice, right from the grandest national strategy down to the most intimate protection of individual rights.